Good morning, PLP students. I'm going to walk you through your Tuesday assignment here and show you what it is you need to be doing. And then I'll talk about Thursday and the rest of the week after. If I go in, let me share my screen here with you and show you this document. Last week, you worked through like different pieces for crime solving. You looked at forensic biology and DNA. You looked at some memory tests, selective attention, and different types of criminals. And so today you're going to be working through that last piece, which has to do with fingerprinting. Now, this link is on Schoology in the weekly folder. It's 4 pages long. The only page you need is this first page with this chart. So you can either print this, or you can just take a normal piece of paper and just make this chart with a pencil or a pen, the same thing. So either way is fine. And you do not need to print pages 2, 3, and 4. Okay? As you work through this, I'll talk about how you can submit this when you're done. Because essentially what you're going to do today is lift or try to gather your own fingerprints and determine what type of fingerprints you have. So the first thing you need to do is watch this short video about fingerprinting and how fingerprints are developed. It's just a couple minutes long. And then you're going to gather your own fingerprints on a table that looks like this. Again, either print it or make your own. And I'm going to walk you through here step by step how we're going to do this in a pretty easy fashion. If you wanted to try it if we were at school, what I would do is we would have, I have some cornstarch, and you can actually put your fingerprint, you can press your finger like onto a table and use some cornstarch to kind of brush over it like they do on like a CSI or that the forensic scientists do, and then use some tape and gather your fingerprint that way. We're going to do it today simply with pencil lead. So what you'll need, besides this piece of paper or a separate piece of paper with this chart, is a pencil, another scratch piece of paper, and preferably some tape, like some Scotch tape. If you don't have Scotch tape, you can do this just with pencil and your finger, but it would be better if you have tape because it'll pull the fingerprint a little bit better for you. And so I'm going to show you step by step here what it is you need to do. So the first thing you need to do on a scratch piece of paper is take a pencil. Let me stop sharing here, let's be easier. Show you. So you're going to take just a piece of paper and you're going to want to just color like a square of pencil lead. You want to make sure this is really dark. Okay, so you're going to want to go over it, color this little square for probably at least 30 seconds to a minute. And as you fingerprint each of your fingers, you're going to also want to make sure each time you go back over this square with pencil. So you want to make sure this is a really dark square. Okay. Step 2 then is you will then place your finger, each finger, on the penciled square. And when you put your finger down on this, and I'll show you in a minute, you're going to want to make sure you put your finger down and then you kind of roll your finger back and forth on the pencil lead so you get the full pencil lead to cover the entire tip of your finger. Okay, so I'm going to do this real quick just to show you. So I'm placing my finger on it and then just making sure it coats the whole piece of my finger. So essentially now this is what the tip of my pointer looks like. Again, before I move on to the next finger, I want to make sure I go back over this square and get it dark again. Okay, so now I have this fully covered. The next step that you'll want to do, and if you need to use people at home to help you, typically in class when we do this, classmates help each other out, is you want to take a little piece of Scotch tape and put the tape over your finger here. Try to do this by only touching the edges if possible, so you don't get your other fingerprints all over it. But I'm going to take this piece of tape like this. You can kind of see it in the light. And then I'm going to press down the tape onto my finger, covered in pencil lead. So again, it's kind of hard to see, but I have this little piece of tape hanging off the tip of my finger that I'm pressing down onto. And then all I need to do after I've let it sit there for a few seconds is I'm then going to pull off the piece of tape, and you can kind of see in the light that there is a fingerprint on there. This is my right pointer. So if I go back to that chart, I would look for the box for the right-hand column where it's the right fingers and look for the pointer. And then what I would do is put this piece of tape down onto that piece of paper. So I press that down, and I did my pointer twice here, but as you can see now, here's my square of where I've just colored. I now have my pointer on there, and I know it's hard to see, but you can, if you look closely, you'll be able to start to see what kind of pattern of a fingerprint you have. So I just have the tape with my fingers. So basically what I'm going to go through and do then is repeat those same steps for my other 9 fingers. So I'm going to want to make sure I take my pencil lead, color over this again, move on to the next finger, place like, my middle finger down, roll it on the lead, tape it, and then put the piece of tape on this piece of paper. So essentially going back then to that chart, I will then have 10 fingers with all the different fingerprints on it. And if I go back here and show you, this is the piece that you'll need to turn in. And then at the very bottom, it says, what type of fingerprints do you have? Pages 2 through 4, which again, you do not need to print, go through the different types of fingerprints, along with which ones are the most rare in the world and which ones are the most common. With each type, like for instance, with the arches, there's different types of arches. And so you can try to see if you did have an arch, what do you think your subcategory is? Some people, when they do this, it kind of is like, well, it looks like I have some arches and some whorls. So just try to, gauge it as best as you can as far as what type of fingerprint that you have. And so you're going to do this with all 10 fingers, and then you will turn this sheet in. Again, if you don't have tape, you'll just want to make sure that you really press your finger down on the lead, and then just make sure you really press it into the paper. The tape does the best way of lifting the lead from your finger onto the paper. And so just try to do the best you can. Now, once you get done with this, so you do your fingerprinting and you determine what type you have based on these pages, you will need to turn this document in. And so on Schoology in the Dropbox, you have a couple of options. If you printed this, or if you use your own piece of paper, if you want to just take a picture and upload your picture, that would be a really easy way to do it. Just make sure with your picture that I can fully see your different boxes and what type of fingerprints that you have. If you need to do it in, a couple of pictures, that's totally fine. The other option, if you were to print this and do the assignment, if you have a scanner at home, you could scan the sheet back in, like as a PDF, for example, and then submit that document to Schoology as well. If you're struggling with any of the Schoology submissions, you could also just email me a scanned document or pictures of your sheet as well. So again, I'd watch the video or go back and look at those steps if you need to see it as far as what to do with the different fingerprints here, and then determine which one you have based on the different types below. And then finally, I just want to say for the rest of the week and kind of where we're headed, on Thursday, I will be going live through Zoom, and I will send you those invites later today. If possible, I would really recommend that you join our live classes on Thursday. I'm going to talk through our final sort of activity that we're going to be doing that goes into the month of May, which is our school-wide whodunit. This has typically been the kind of final piece that we do when we're in school, where there was a crime that was committed and different teachers take on roles. And essentially, if we were in school, you would go around and you would interview the different teachers and try to figure out who's the one that's responsible or who done it. And we're still going to be doing that on a smaller scale, but we're going to be doing it through Google Hangouts and Zooms, where you'll be able to talk to these different teachers virtually and try to figure out what went on during this crime. And so Thursday, there's not going to be much for an assignment. It's going to be more of just me talking through the guidelines, letting you read through the sheet. And then I'm gonna have a survey for you to fill out as well. So if possible to join us on Thursday for our live Zoom, that would be great. If you have any questions about the fingerprinting or as we move forward, please feel free to let me know. I hope you have a fabulous Tuesday.